Good afternoon and welcome to the Day After Podcast and our sub-show, Pixar Sunday, where we are watching all of the Pixar movies from 1995's Toy Story to 2020's onward. And today is episode 4, where we're a little trepidatious to talk about 2001's Monsters Incorporated, directed by Pete Docter in his directorial debut.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Right on.
He was one of the originals, not one of the main people that hangs around the Pixar core, like kind of like a brat pack of the people that make Pixar movies.
Right on. This is a weird one.
It's so we everybody I talk to, this is one of the frequent movies that comes up when you ask people what their favorite Pixar is.
And I think it's mainly because of our age.
I had read once that somebody said jokingly, your favorite Pixar movie is the one that came out between the ages of 8 and 12.
And for us, this one came out in 2001.
Which
so
is 10 years old for me. So
yeah, and 9 years old for me. So that might be because of our age. I remember seeing this movie in theaters. I remember watching it as a kid and kind of enjoying it. Going back to it as an adult, and I've seen it a few times before this as an adult, it's weird.
In 2014...
It's definitely not as good as, like, you remember.
In 2014, we rewatched it just for the sake of it, and I remember being so scorned, I promised never to watch it again.
Oh, yeah.
But I think it's warmed up a tiny bit, but there's still a lot of problems that I have with this fucking movie.
I think a lot of the issue, which, as you said earlier, we had built ourselves of, like, oh, yeah, Monsters, Inc. is one of the ultimate Pixar classics, and you go back to watch it, and you're just like...
And because it's a Pixar, it has all of these good things going for it, and that's just through the blood of Pixar.
Yeah, it's not a bad movie. It's not unwatchable, but in the pantheon of all the Pixar movies, it's a hiccup.
But what I said during it that finally I feel this way. It's a good wrap up of how I feel. It feels like a movie constantly stepping on its own toes.
Yeah.
It has really good world building, possibly the best world building of any Pixar movie. She's shaking her head in a little weird way, but we'll get to that. But it's drawn out by these jokes that don't belong in Pixar jokes and in Pixar films. And Billy Crystal
never stops talking.
Somebody said how much you like this movie is how much Billy Crystal shtick you can take. Careful, because this movie was it was focused around Sulley, who at one point was named Johnson, and Boo, which they made his kid.
Yeah.
His kid, as the monsters call it. And we needed somebody for Sulley to bounce off of, hence Mike Wazowski.
Right, and I do like the story of two friends who one of them undergoes a massive change.
Yep.
And I like this idea. It's not a pure metaphor, but I do like the allegory of two friends, one of them suddenly becomes a father, and how does their relationship change?
Can you imagine if that was shoved down your throat a little more?
And it's not. In fact, it's handled very, very well. And probably where it's handled the best is after they're banished, and Mike gives his "Don't I Matter" speech.
Honestly, I'm impressed with the subtlety of that. You're the first one to bring that up where I was like, that's a really good point.
If that scene was not in this movie, I would have more, like, unwatchable problems with it. But I really like this idea of, like, if you're being honest, like, Sully's sudden decision to make his entire life about this 3-year-old, what he does to Mike and the things he says to Mike are kind of shitty.
They're kind of callous. If I could just wrap up why the fuck Billy Crystal's in this movie. When Toy Story was being cast, they offered Billy Crystal the role of Buzz Lightyear, or to at least read for it.
Yeah.
And Pixar wasn't a big name, so he turned it down. And he later has been quoted saying that is the biggest career mistake in my life. And so when Monsters, Inc. rolled around and they asked Billy Crystal again, he's like, I'll do it. Give it to me. And it works because they have two unambiguously adult characters having an adult friendship, which is one of Pixar's strong suits.
Yes, yeah. The fact that you deal with adults in adult situations in a kid-friendly lens, but still.
But he's got this joke-punching problem of trying to be funny at all times because Billy Crystal is first and foremost he's a comedian.
Yeah, and I feel like they did give Crystal some freedom with the script, which I think is important when you bring in a stand-up comedian, that you give him some freedom. And they clearly did that. He kind of ran away with it. A lot of the Billy Crystal talking jokes don't work. But this movie does have other things that work.
I think it's halfway. In some respects, I think that Billy Crystal was allowed somewhat to vamp. But in other respects, there are jokes that feel like they were made to be Billy Crystal jokes. Like in the locker room, hey buddy, I'm kind of smelling. You got some odorant?
Yeah. That was in the trailer.
It was?
Yeah.
That seems like such a fucking safe trailer
Just
joke.
Like, imagine if Don Rickles playing Mr. Potato Head, imagine if he talked all the time and was constantly doing his stand-up throughout the movie instead of actually impacting the plot.
Honestly, the only Don Rickles joke that made it into that movie was, hey, you hockey puck. He called people hockey pucks all the time. The fucking odorant sucks.
So, I know we're not following John's list here. The talking the comedic stand-up bits don't really get me. The visual gags of this movie hit much more frequently. Now they don't all hit.
Oh boy, we'll get to it. But this is a much less talky movie and much more of a physical slapstick kind of movie.
Yeah, it's much more of a visual storytelling rather than jokes all the time.
Less of the energy is put on the writing, which is still okay writing.
Yeah.
But more of a slapstick thing. Sulley, I have way more. Okay, we crossed our fingers 8 times before we started saying this podcast is not going to be called "Please Go Watch Monsters University," because in our household we have positive opinions, but we're not going to waste the entire podcast talking about Monsters U. And
just small little side note here. One thing I wanted to say earlier that I forgot. This movie to me is what I feel like most people think A Bug's Life is. Bug's Life had the opposite thing that I have with this movie, where it was like, oh, it was kind of whatever when I was a kid, and later on I really like it. As a kid, I was okay with monsters, and as you grow up, it really falls out for me.
Sulley is there are very subtle hints early at Sulley's character that I like. Is that when they show you the end commercial that they made for the Monsters Company, he's kind of even though he's the top scare, he doesn't feel at home in his skin. He's not a people person. Yeah,
he's always kind of awkward. He always just kind of like, as they're walking through, is always like, hey Ted, or hey Gary, and Mike always like walks up and actually starts a conversation with them. Usually just him talking nonstop at this person. And you almost feel like Sulley has to be a little more reserved and more awkward because Mike is so over the top.
You need a straight man, because Mike kind of, I don't want to shit on Billy Crystal. He doesn't run away with the movie, but because Sulley's here, we need Mike. And because Mike is here, we need throwaway characters like Roz and Celia May.
People really like Roz, and I don't get it. Celia definitely could have been not in the movie.
You could have chopped her out.
And it would have been fine.
Yeah, you could have had the Toy Story level. Because
we gotta make those snake puns.
But that's I mean, I don't care about Billy Crystal's love life. I that seems like shitty, but I don't. I really don't.
Yeah, she's always just kind of there as a plot device. She takes them to the sushi restaurant where Boo gets lost, and she stops Randall with that saying Randall is now the top scare, and he gets bombarded by all those monsters.
I want to get to my biggest problem with the movie, and you pointed it out, and I can't stop. I don't want to get CinemaSinsy here, but what is the purpose of monsters being afraid of humans besides the relatively, for Pixar, one-note humor that is, oh, what? 8-armed monster is scared of a little girl? What? Oh my god. Sorry, stank.
Yeah, so there's this prevailing thing where monsters believe humans are toxic. And I get that to sell jokes, but I'm never given an in-universe reason as to why monsters are terrified or why humans are thought to be toxic.
Now, some people might look at Waternoose's motivations and try to reverse engineer a reason for them to be afraid, where like if they weren't toxic, they might accidentally become friendly with them. But I feel like it's less of a plot point and way more of a, isn't that funny?
Yeah, and if I was given just a little bit of in-universe thing as to why the CDA even fucking exists. They have an entire organization that is very, very powerful, devoted to keeping humans away from monsters.
I don't mean to CinemaSinsy. I don't need that. Yes, I just said at the top it's got the best world building, but I don't need those extra details, but that is one place where I'm like, give me a little bit more ground to stand on, please.
Yeah.
Oh.
just make it something other than a vehicle for jokes is my big thing.
I really was kind of impressed, like, even though it's in the background, how much of like a business drama this is.
Yeah, and you've mentioned this about the world building and how much you like this world that they're in. I don't really,
but
it's every factory.
But they keep talking about this energy crisis, which is a really real thing that apparently was.
I'm not sure on it. So
I mean, it's not allegorical to a real life thing, but it is. It's a mirror to what a real energy crisis would be like.
Yeah, and how we would have to react in an energy crisis. And so yes, they're in this energy plant, this power plant thing. But maybe I understand. I applaud Pixar for trying to be adult, but. Two guys going to work? That's your main line?
I feel like they could have enough visual gags around there. Like, the whole start of the movie is visual gags about them doing normal things.
Yeah, and those only take you so far.
But I think you can intersperse it with throwaway lines like Waternoose going, "Hey, just tell that to the board of directors, you know? I got this whole bureaucracy I gotta maintain," and... Go ahead.
It feels to me like you set a 10-year-old down saying, "Hey, Daddy has to go to work. What do you think Daddy's work looks like?" And they made Monsters, Inc.
I hope you can expound on that, because I feel like you might be onto something.
Well, what do you want me to expound on?
I don't know. Like, yeah, it feels like, oh, there's a big factory with a bunch of whirly
things.
It's
a big factory, and everybody works around, and it's got the super, like, intricate back area where all the doors are.
It's dope.
And Daddy's boss is kind of freaky and weird, and maybe there's people who, like, don't get along there, kind of like school. Kids think work is just school.
It's just, there's bullying in this fucking...
Which there is. That's all Randall is a bully.
Okay, Steve Buscemi. Okay, number one, good casting choice.
Probably the best character in the show.
Oh yeah, I think he's really well. Okay, not well written, but number one on the surface. Look how this fucker moves. He's like a legit
he's a snaky boy,
snaky chameleon motherfucker, and it makes sense for the most duplicitous character in the movie to have the power of invisibility. I think that's cool as hell.
Yeah. Yeah, so Randall's really solid. I wish he was given a little bit more other than I want to be the best to go after Sulley. But again, Monsters University is a great movie.
We'll get to that. Put a giant pin in that. He's so... What the fuck was that plot? His plan to circumvent scaring?
Yes, he wants to have the best scare record of all time, so he's gonna build this super crazy scream machine
and suck the scares out of kids.
To suck all of the screams out of kids, which is legitimately terrifying.
That didn't land for me, and I don't mean land like it didn't work. I wasn't focused on that because I didn't know what it was or how fucking scary that thing is.
God, when they use it on Randall's little friend there, just oh my God, it's terrifying.
That's
two people are threatened with it, and one person gets subjected to it.
That's really fucking scary and fucked up, and I love that.
But yeah, Randall's a cool villain. Doesn't have very good motivation. Waternoose is. I love his character design. He has more motivation, but see, this is where twist villains start to kind of fall off.
Be careful. I'll rein you in if I feel like you're out of line, but I feel like you have a good argument. So
that's all I had. Well, the argument that he is a twist villain?
Well, that he, the realization that he had motivations that maybe weren't totally in the white. About he was trying his best to solve the energy crisis, but by doing this weird thing, and there are videos online where people rank the Pixar villains evil to most evil, and I think like Waternoose and Randall are more on the chill end.
I don't know. I mean, he is like legitimately kidnapping people and subjecting them to a horror that I don't even want to look at.
Okay, Randall is evil certainly, but Waternoose is just trying to solve this energy crisis, and he's like, "Oh, you have this machine here, let me look at it," and there's less beyond. Go ahead.
And my part of the issue with Waternoose is I feel like there's this certain, like, when you think corporation, you think super evil dude in a suit who is doing terrible things in order to make money. That's exactly what Waternoose does.
It's less black and white morality, because I feel like a Monsters, Inc. movie, Pixar movie, could have made it very easy to tell I'm comic bad guy, I'm good guy. And that he is just trying his best. He doesn't do anything super shitty until he says, I would let 1,000 children get kidnapped.
Yeah.
But that's just to end the movie.
Yeah, it's right at the end, and so he's a twist villain, but the twist happens so late, it's not really given any weight.
A little, like, cut all of the Celia scenes. Give me 1 or 2 more scenes with Noose and Randall.
Yeah.
I feel like that could have really fleshed out both sides.
Yeah, because Randall just wants to be the best. Waternoose is actually trying to solve a legit problem, and it's kind of weird to have those two working together, when they're not really given any scenes together other than that.
Yeah, good job. I have one major problem, and there's only one example I can come up with, so maybe I'll run into a wall here. I don't like when, for the sake of jokes, they make characters act in ways they shouldn't, and the one that gets me is when, Randall is looking out for who might have, fucked his door up last night, and he's like, hey, Wazowski, so some shit went down. What about this kid, right? It could be in the factory. It's like, like, gives a really guilty stutter, and he goes, I don't know, James might have it, the sneaky bastard. Oh, you're right, James. And I think that Randall is a smarter character that wouldn't just immediately get sidetracked like that.
Well, and I think he only approached Mike just because he's trying to find more information.
Yeah, I guess.
We talked before how both Mike and Randall, at least for a while, don't have empathy for Boo.
He's a fuck.
They don't really see it as not as a human, because obviously physically it is a human, but like they don't really care what happens to it. They're not actively trying to kill it. They just want to restore the status quo.
There are some throwaway lines where like Mike is willing to throw this girl into another country. Go ahead.
And going back on what John said of making characters dumber, when Randall is explaining his plan to return Boo, he's like, okay, now at noon, the scare floor will be
painted.
Empty, because everybody goes to
preschool. Mike!
What?
How long have you been working here?
Are you like, why make him that stupid? Why is that? What is the point there?
I appreciate Randall's threatening aura there, but Mike, stop. And even Sulley's the straight guy, so when you have to have Sulley try to mug at the fact that Boo's dead, even before the scene started, you're like, this sucks, just a heads up.
Yeah. Oh, God. Did you have...
No, I'm going... Go ahead.
Because I have some...
Yeah, please.
I was kind of shocked with PIXAR. Now, PIXAR is great at setting up adult situations and putting them through a kid lens, and usually because there's a kid present. Boo's a toddler.
There was a lot of discussion as they were workshopping early stages of this movie, how old the kid should be. Because too old and he becomes susceptible to those, kids aren't scared anymore, but he can't be a literal baby.
Yeah. And so they made Boo to me, and I'm not a baby expert at all, she seems to be about 3 or 4. She's potty trained, she does not sleep in a crib, she sleeps in a bed. And yeah, but here's the thing, especially, and maybe it was just me, but I get the feeling that older kids 8 to 12, don't like little kids. I certainly didn't. And so Boo is the worst part of this movie for me.
I think that is it something for the adults to find cute, I guess? It's a plot point. But...
I mean, yeah, an adult can see a toddler running around a factory and be like, oh my gosh, I've totally been there.
That is a point, I guess. Mary Gibbs is the voice of the blabbering Boo. She was 5 years old when this movie came out, so probably recorded it at age 4. So good on you for a 4-year-old actor, I guess.
Yeah. And it's like, I understand why she's there. She moves the plot along. Oh my God. It's so much of that movie is them trying to corral Boo. And that's so much of raising a toddler. But nobody says raising a toddler is fun and entertaining.
It's more of a, it's like
a necessary stage to get to a thing that can function.
I don't mean to shit on either PIXAR or that episode of Teen Titans I hate where Raven has to take care of 3 kids. It's just something you have to take care of that's harder to take care of than you think.
Yeah.
And it just happened to be a kid. I gotta take a break from this salt. Welcome back to PIXAR Mainstays. Welcome back to PIXAR Mainstays.
I was like, what?
Cut that shit out. John Ratzenberg.
Okay, you said Jeffrey Katzenberg.
That's not the... Okay, now it's revealed. I'm an idiot. Welcome back to PIXAR Mainstays. We're doing it for real this time. John Ratzenberg, the recurring voice actor, plays a series low abominable snowman for me. He's
not in it very long, so...
but holy shit, is he there mucking up what's supposed to be the emotional core of the movie.
Yep.
Which is, I guess, your favorite scene, and I can see why.
Yeah, well, it's the only... Number one, it's the one scene where Billy Crystal is actually having a real moment instead of just vamping.
Oh, God, does he know how to vamp?
And it does. Like, you sit down and you realize... And you look at it from Mike's perspective for the first time, because we've been following Sulley and seeing Sulley's point of view. You sit down and look at Mike's perspective... What Sulley did was really shitty.
Yeah, it's not shitty in like in a manipulative Jesse way. It's like more of like an ignorant friend who let their friendship kind of like degrade.
Yeah, because I have something new in my life, whether that's a kid, whether that's a new marriage, a boyfriend, relationship, whatever. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. The A113 is tough to find. It's not an A113, but one of the pillars way in the back, right before they throw Randall into the door, does read A13. The Pizza Planet truck is the same from A Bug's Life. They reused that asset for Randall to show up in a Louisiana home trailer and get his ass beat with a shovel.
Yes.
Which is, I thought was really funny. Like, there are some scenes, like, when witnesses are giving their first-hand accounts of what happened at the sushi bar.
Yeah.
They all, for some reason, have Western accents.
Yes, and they're all acting like, people who are just looking to be on this newfangled thing called TV.
I understand where you're going from that. I'm not insulted. I just feel like it's kind of an easy joke.
Yeah. I know we're not doing it anymore, but Boo has the PIXAR ball.
Yeah. Oh my God. They throw references to past and future PIXAR movies at you.
When Sulley returns Boo to her room, she hands him the PIXAR ball, a Jessie doll, a teddy bear, and a little clownfish squeaky toy.
Yeah. This is my biggest stickler, and I think we'll tackle this last. How do you feel about replacements laughter?
Oh. I mean, and here's the you said movies tripping over its own feet. Once we've deposed Waternoose, where does this movie have to go? It's almost like it did a JonTron ending.
Sorry.
I love you to death, John, but you do not know how to end a video.
Let me back up. What they set up really well that scare teams, and I don't mean to get into lore, but this is reinforced many times. The scare team is a scarer and what I'll call a tech.
Yeah.
Mike Wazowski is the tech that sets the door up.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be good at both. It's enforced multiple times that Sulley is not super familiar with the controls and how to file paperwork and get the door set up, but they work together as a team. So it feels like the revelation that laughter is 10 more times powerful than screams serves one of two purposes, neither of them very strong. The first one I can think of is that they wanted Billy Crystal to be involved.
I think they wanted him to do actual stand-up. And amazingly, when Billy Crystal does stand-up to a 5-year-old, crickets.
Oh my God, what the fuck? Kids don't get the...
burp and fart. That's funny. That's all you need.
That's his gag. Is that yes? The monsters that apparently we felt bad for at the beginning, the one falling on the jacks in the opening scene, is now killing it. They're having a fun time. Are we trying to establish this moral that in a fictional monster universe that scaring kids is bad?
Yeah, like what was that? And again, I think it's mainly because this movie had nowhere to go.
And I feel it feels especially like it's putting a Band-Aid on the plot because this movie likes to get really meta. Because at the end, it's like, you did it, Sulley. We put the kid back. I mean, we fucked the entire monster country, and we don't know what we're going to do for an energy crisis.
And
but
an
hey,
angry mob is going to come chasing us. But hey, we helped a kid.
But we got some laughs, and that's when Sulley, it clicks. It feels like that is a Band-Aid to cover up what is going to be some weird YouTubers like 5 plot holes. What happened after Monsters Inc. It feels not pandery is the wrong word. I'm flailing because I'm mad.
Right, because and so when after you return Boo home, where does the movie have to go? Where you've given it nowhere, and you're gonna still have this energy crisis. If you stop here, people are gonna be really fucking confused. Then you got a conclusion to the story, but not a conclusion to the world, which is why I don't quite like the world as much, because you either need more or less of it. I either need to know there's an energy crisis without
Could we have
all these other
written
steps.
a less squeaky solution to the energy crisis? Because what sets this weird tone issue is that even though there is an energy crisis, what people remember as kids fondly is not the energy crisis subplot.
No, it's Boo and Sulley and Mike.
But it's being given this weight. It was given enough weight that the writers felt that we needed a conclusion that came off really squeaky clean and a little pandery.
Well, and I mean, like, once Sully's done, returning Boo and everything, what, they're supposed to go back to scaring again?
Pretty much. Status quo, right?
Right, and it's just, the movie had absolutely nowhere to go. Oh, all of a sudden, by the way, when we switch from scaring to humor, suddenly nobody's afraid of kids anymore.
Okay, but didn't they reveal that okay, yeah, I understand there's a fear, but I think that people learned that was a scam. The kids are toxic, that's a scam, so we don't have to be afraid anymore.
That wasn't revealed very well.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure that they told people, and that eventually there's some prejudice against kids.
There's something that was so prevalent throughout the entire movie to have that just disappear in a puff of smoke. To have George get
a recurring 3 things.
We need to move to final thoughts.
Oh, Jesus
Christ. Because we're just getting mad now.
Okay. Good job. Not quite the sack of not so good stuff that I thought it was going to be. It's still, we're in the background compiling ranking the lists, and so far our lists haven't diverged. We both put Monsters, Inc. at the bottom of the first 4.
Yeah.
It's good because it's Pixar, and it's like...
And again, it's not unwatchably bad, but it's just not a great time.
It's a little chunky. Not chunky, but like it plods.
Yeah.
And, okay. Sorry about the sass right at the end. I appreciate that we gave it another shot, which is why we're doing this.
Yeah, exactly.
But thank you for joining us on Pixar Sunday. Join us in 1 week for 2003's Finding Nemo. It's going to be a big episode. So many people like Finding Nemo.
So many people.
It is an issue.